Good evening, India. Again, I'm here with you to discuss some essays which have been asked in UPSC few years back. So I'm here again. Let me first tell you the topic. First, the idea of self-reliant India in an interconnected world. So, whither do we go and what shall be our endeavour? Was the question posed by the first Prime Minister of India, Jawaharlal Nehru, on the eve of 15th August 1947. This question aided the development strategy of independent India, which focused on Atma Shakti, self-reliance and self-sufficiency. 75 years later, a renewed impetus in the name of Atmanirbhar Bharat has topped all policy decisions, urging to look at capacity and capability creation in this increasingly uncertain era of interconnected world. Moving forward, we have in this essay, we will examine the true intent and purpose of self-reliant India. We will then look at how the interconnected world has necessitated the process of self-reliance. Further, we will examine how and in what ways will India be self-reliant. Finally, we will also discuss additional actions required to be self-reliant. So let's begin. The idea of self-reliant India. What do we mean by self-reliance? It is simply Atmanirbharta or tendency to depend on self in uncertain time. It also connotes the maxim of Atma Shakti used by our forefathers during the Indian freedom struggle. Self-reliance is an important component across all sectors as it induces increased resilience and reduced dependence on foreign actors, thus insulating India from adverse global shocks. It is also important to differentiate self-reliance from self-sufficiency. While the former focuses on capacity enhancement to increase global participation, the latter focuses on keeping India closed by restricting foreign competition and building capacity to ensure subsistence. Self-sufficiency reflects the idea of Gandhian Gram Swaraj, with no global exposure and interactions, while on the contrary, self-reliance corroborates economic growth and development in consonance with global forces and trends. Interconnected word, meaning and ramifications. Indian society since ancient times believed in idea of Vasudev Kutumbakam, with early Indus Valley context with the Mesopotamian civilization some 4700 years ago. India has always been a part of global interaction, creating an interconnected world. Interconnections among nations is in a broad sense known as globalization. With reduced barriers and boundaries among countries, integration in global economy, society and culture has led to creative exchanges among civilizations and continued co-development. This has been experienced by India in recent past. With 1991 new economic policy, India's integration with global economy accelerated, leading to India being one amongst the fastest growing nation. India now is the fifth largest economy in the world and one of largest exporters of several commodities: tea, coffee, services, industrial products, etc. Clearly, India has gained prosperity in the increasingly interconnected world. However, whatever you may say about India, the opposite is also true. Interconnectedness with global economy has increased India's vulnerabilities. The global financial crisis 2008 is a case in point. India, along with the global economy, experienced retrogression due to the subprime crisis in advanced countries. Moreover, with increased foreign investments flowing into India through FDI, FPI, and FII, India has although gained in absolute terms but has experienced destitution in relative sense in terms of increased regional disparities, large income and wealth inequality, and persistent multidimensional poverty. 27% is MPI. Coming closer to recent COVID-19 pandemic engulfed the whole globe in shackles of deterioration of social, political, and economic forces. Moreover, COVID-19 developing into a pandemic itself was caused due to interconnected world. The rampage of this microscopic entity necessitated a look towards internal capacity creation and resilience by countries, paving the way for the idea of self-reliant India in an interconnected world. Self-reliance in interconnected world. India is plagued with recurrent and certain perpetual issues like high oil imports and dependence, annual seasonal coal shortages, dumping of goods by China and other countries, etc., all caused by the interconnections in the world. In light of this, the idea of self-reliant India is a beacon of light for domestic population. Let us see the idea of self-reliance across different sectors and sections. In the agricultural sector, which is the primary sector of the Indian economy, implications of interconnected world has led to fluctuating agricultural prices, WTO disputes, inflationary tendencies, farmers' distress, etc. Self-reliant in cultural sector will insulate the farmers from global fluctuations and create era of stability. It can be achieved by filling gaps in infrastructural availability, by building storage, warehousing and marketing facilities, and facilitating renewable energy use through PM Kusum. Promoting food processing industries, sunrise sector will lead to capacity enhancement, as only 81% of produce in processed in India compared to 90% in advanced nation. Export diversification in agricultural sector by promoting newer crops through operations greens and NMEOOP will go a long way. Moving on to industrial and services sector. Problems posed by increased interconnections have been casualization of workers, regional disparities, increased inequality, etc. Self-reliance in industrial and services sector should focus on human resource development and bridging infrastructural deficit. New Education Policy 2020 with emphasis on vocational education will help in increasing formally skilled workforce from current 5%. Further skill development mission, Startup India, Stand Up India and Digital India initiatives will usher in ease of doing business and expand entrepreneurial abilities. PM Gati Shakti Master Plan for Infrastructural Development by reducing delays and encouraging multimodal logistics will create employment opportunities and induce capability and capacity enhancement in India. MSMEs, the backbone of the economy, have been the focus of Atmanirbhar Bharat mission. ANM. Increased credit availability through ECLGS, PLI schemes, easier exit and resolution norms through PIRP under IBC, etc. will lead to export promotion, increased efficiency and overall development. Further structural support by the government in terms of NARCL for easier exit norms, single winds in clearances, Parivesh portal, increased digitization, BharatNet, etc. will induce spillover effects from self-reliance. Additionally, the problem of environmentally unsustainable practices can be tackled by inducing self-reliance. Projects like Amrit Sarovar, MG Narega, etc. for wetland development. Green corridor along Ganga River encouraging AZBNF will induce capacity creation and reduce negative impacts of environment degradation by MNCs. Having discussed the problems created by interconnected world and in what ways can self-reliant India tackle them, we must also look at caveats that must be addressed. Self-reliant India to execution. Self-reliance offers novel solutions to economic problems. However, in social domain, multidimensional and multi-sectoral approach is required. The issue of rising inequality and persistent poverty are case in point. According to World Inequality Report, top 10% in India hold 57% of national India, while bottom 50% hold a mere 13% of national income, with 22% population as BPL. Self-reliance must focus on social infrastructure creation and empowerment through DBT, increased public expenditure on health and education, preventive care expansion under Ayushman Bharat, etc. These multi-stakeholder problems can be resolved by increased community participation as seen during rehabilitative measures by Kudumbashree in Kerala. Finally, on national and international level, multilateral cooperation in terms of capacity enhancement of SIDs, least developed countries, and adopting strategies of build back better will insulate the world from adverse shocks. It is imperative for us to recognize the importance of self-reliance in this interconnected world. Self-reliance can ensure internal and external development and embark the process of sustainable development. Let us be then up and doing with the heart of any fate is still achieving, is still pursuing to find us farther than today. With proactivity and inclusion, self-reliance can usher in inclusive growth. However, self-reliance should not tread onto the path of self-sufficiency rather a multilateral cooperation should be the way forward. So I think the essay is good. Nice essay. Let us move on to second essay. Now the second essay's topic is, so let us, a self that goes on changing is a self that goes on living. Sudha Murthy was born to be a teacher. She learnt early that teaching was not just a vocation that was noble, but one that changes the world. She went on to marry Narayan Murthy, a socialist by blood. When the benedictions of capitalism arrived in their lives, they combined their energies and channelized it towards the betterment of society. Mrs. Murthy has utilized the wealth of Infosys to weed out social ills like the Devadasi system. She has worked in the spirit of a karma yogi and become an institution herself. She believes that changing her approaches, inhibitions and methods has enabled her to change the world in her own little ways. Her changes have fulfilled the Gandhian dream of oceanic circles of empowerment, where one small positive change creates ripple effects in society. As she goes on changing herself and those around, she goes on living her simplistic yet fulfilling life, and her legend will go on living beyond her mortal existence. In this essay, we will understand how change is the only constant, the need to adapt to survive, the ideas which have evolved and lived on, and the importance of change in 21st century. Change is the law of nature. The universe is in constant motion, thereby setting the ball of time rolling. This has made scientists proclaim that nothing is ever static. If the world around us is constantly changing, does it not make it imperative for us to change in line with it? This is Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest. Those who adapt go on living, and those who are rigid perish. This principle is the foundation of the Earth's evolution and also the fulcrum of an individual's existence. A revered personality in this regard is Helen Keller, who lost her eyesight and hearing capacity at an age of 19 months. Her story has been a lifelong journey of change, of learning and unlearning constantly to emerge as the icon she became. Such an indomitable spirit which does not bow down to its own rigidity is the culmination of the determination to keep moving. Be a bush if you can't be a tree. If you can't be a highway, just be a trail. For it isn't by size that you win or fail. Be the best of whatever you are. Be the best of whatever you are. Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. was a crusader of the civil rights movement. He embraced the changes that a new dawn of equality demanded, and he urged others to embrace those changes too. Decades later, his followers have embraced the same changes with the Black Lives Matter movement, addressing the need of the hour. While civilizational ideas are the basis of any society, there is a need to change and evolve those ideas to survive. The Black Rights stated above aims to achieve the same. In the Indian context, the historical sufferings under the British Raj needed to change. This was realized by moderates like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, who appealed to the British sense of justice. But for the movement to survive, extremists exerted violent methods when British disregarded Indian welfare. Even this was severely repressed. It was finally with the emergence of Mahatma Gandhi that a new method of regime change was witnessed for the first time in the history of humankind: ahimsa, non-violence and satyagraha. This appealed to the masses and the struggle ended with India's independence. Changing, refining and evolving is the secret of ideas that are immortal. Economy, the basic structure of society. Various economic policies and approaches have taken shape in the last 2 centuries, but the peculiar survival of liberalism is a curious case. Liberalism as an ideology have not first survived and have not just survived but thrived. It began with Adam Smith's Wealth of the Nation, which was given the technical term of classical liberalism in 19th century. But when the Great Depression engulfed the world with gut-wrenching miseries, the idea survived because it changed itself into modern liberalism. This was the welfare expenditure done by government to survive their economies. Over the decades, welfare turned into corruption and red tapeism, but liberalism survived because it changed itself to proclaim market fundamentalism. That is neoliberalism. This helped corporates thrive but created huge inequalities. Oxfam's Time to Care report highlights 1% population owns over 40% wealth, but did this signal the death of liberalism? No, because it again evolved into social liberalism. Now, economists like Amartya Sen asked governments to focus on capability development to ensure gains for all. The idea that changes every time it is challenged but retains its principle is an idea that goes on living. Relevance in 21st century, an age that is defined by problems without passports, coined by Kofi Annan. It requires meticulous forethought to bring sustainable changes. A tiny virus changed the way we had known the world. A global lockdown in a world that was tending towards a global village was nothing sort of impossible. Yet life went on because we learned to live and adapt to changes like wearing masks, working from home, reforming distance learning, and most importantly, staying connected with loved ones who were far in distance but not hard. Social media has redefined our lives with virtual reunions. The online world has changed the way we socialize forever. This needs to be embraced responsibly to avoid challenges like the silent pandemic of mental health breakdowns. E-commerce has also rejuvenated the need for survival of the fittest as Kirana stores struggle. A way to emerge victorious in this battle of matching external changes with internal progressions is Atmanirikshan, the SOWT analysis that can help us understand ourselves and others and course of life. This can help us become karma yogis like Sudha Murthy and achieve our civilizational endeavor of Vasudev Kutumbakam. After all, as held by E.H. Hamley in the famous poem Invictus, it matters not how straight the gate, how charged the punishment the scroll. I am the master of my fate. I am the caption of my soul. A self that embraces change and goes on living. So thank you. Second essay is over and it was nice essay. Asked in UPSC. And they are good essays. So let us find out another essay. If you want to walk fast, walk alone. But if you want to walk far, walk together. Consider 3 men. This is the next topic for essay. Consider three men working together. One of them digs up a hole, the second one fills it with a seed, and the third one covers it with soil. Now, one day the second person is absent due to illness, but the other two are still digging up a hole and filling it back. When asked what is the purpose, they reply, "We are just doing our job." Similarly, just fulfilling your role or duty without understanding the need or demand of the job makes the task fulfillment futile. Similarly, if individual growth is the aim, then others' needs can be ignored. But this would not cause fulfillment of long term goals, just the short term targets. Therefore, if a battle and near both are to be won, if the battle and war both are to be won, cooperation and equitable growth is key. In this essay, we are going to discuss ways of inclusive development adapted by various stakeholders at different levels. The consequences of indifference in contrast to united action will be compared. In the end, we will discuss ways to achieve inclusion and equity. Turning to the pages of history when India was faced with the colonial repression, Starting from the Battle of Plassey, different stakeholders took different approach to express their dissent. The Sepoy Mutiny raised arms against the East India Company, but the lack of support of southern states and stakeholders such as zamindars etc. led to the defeat. Similarly, the moderates laid the foundation of the freedom struggle, but they did not believe in the capacity of the masses to protest. This led to moderate success being short term. In contrast to their approach, Gandhi's fresh approval of the struggle appealed to everyone. The reason being his empathy and will to understand different people's problems, be it the indigo farmers of Champaran or the mill workers of Ahmedabad. He worked for their welfare, be it the capitalists such as Purushottam Thakurdas or the women such as female protesters of Khilafat movement. He approached people with an open mindset to help them fulfill their potential. This collaborative approach helped in gaining freedom in 1947. Though history remembers the sacrifice of the sepoys and the resilience of the moderate, it is Gandhiji who is called the father of the nation. Political stance. At the time of independence, the constitution makers had to make a choice. Either they could further the provisions of Government of India Act of 1935 and have restricted electorate, or they could have universal franchise. Given the low literacy rate of 13%, the views of various constitutional experts such as Ivor Jennings led to doubts about the Indian democracy stability. But it is going to be 75 years and India is the largest democracy of the world with high voter turnout. Its comprehensive policies has led to discontent being expressed not only at the union level but also at the panchayat level. Similarly, the role of the Planning Commission was mandated to be formulation and implementation of 5-year plan, but in this the states had no role to play. The centralizing tendencies led to redundancy of the commission to be replaced by the Niti Aayog. Niti Aayog's aim of cooperative federalism has provided a forum for states to express their concerns, take help of experts and other states, as well as collaborate for reducing regional inequalities. Similarly, during COVID-19, the division of subjects in the 7th schedule stipulates health to be a state subject. Initially, this led to friction between the center and state, especially in the case of vaccine procurement. But by learning from the shortcomings, central government and state government started collaborating for better outcome. Example, the vaccine procurement by center and distribution to states, then GST shortfall transfers to states, as well as the borrowing by central government to meet any needs of the state. Therefore, Indian polity has seen the outcome of collaborative approach in contrast to scattered effort. Social stakeholders. Indian society has evolved from the teachings of Manusmriti to equal rights guaranteed by the Constitution. Manusmriti highlighted how females are a burden on the family and therefore they should be married off quickly. This led to the discrimination of female based on the life cycle approach. From infanticides at birth to child marriage to dowry harassment, women witness unequal treatment at various stages. This has led to high maternal and infant mortality rate as well as low labor force participation. This has put a stop on inclusive growth by limiting diversified workforce and management. In Japan, males and females both are provided tax incentives for labor force participation. Similarly, New Zealand passed a law recognizing equal pay for both. These practices have led to equitable development and higher growth rates for these countries. Therefore, walking alone has led to endangered growth for India instead of engendered growth. Our environment. As Mahatma Gandhi says, we have not inherited this planet from our ancestors, but instead from borrowed it from our children. With focus on achieving high growth rates as fast as possible, we as a society have neglected our environment. We have witnessed the Chipko movement but also the Narmada Bachao Andolan. We have witnessed the highest growth rates of economy in the world as well as the highest number of climate displacement in Asia. The issue of climate refugees is important given the rising sea levels and temperatures. By focusing on their rehabilitation, equitable development can be ensured because it can cause a strain on the resources, thereby requiring collaborative and flexible response instead of sporadic actions. The wildlife has been a vital part of Indian subcontinent. We house 8% of wildlife despite smaller area compared to other nations. Even though steps have been taken for conservation in the form of Project Tiger, Project Elephant, etc., the increasing cases of man-animal conflict highlight the increasing selfishness of man. The desire to acquire as many resources for self has led to deforestation, rapid urbanization, and dam construction. In 2020, the incident of an elephant eating a firecracker laced pineapple because a farmer wanted to safeguard his crops highlights the quest for fast growth. At the world level, the world has transitioned from the era of colonialism to era of free trade. But this path is marred with learnings by various nations. After the World War, the developed nations assumed themselves to be the sole harbingers of growth and development. They formed the G7 grouping, assuming the trade volume and the size of the GDP. But this illusion was broken by the Asian currency crisis, through which the G7 realized the need for expanding itself into G20. Now the grouping represents the 80% of the population and 60% of the GDP. Therefore, G7 nations learned the consequences of limiting their arena to only developed nations. On the other hand, India realizes the importance of equitable development. Freshly after the independence, India formulated the NAM along with other like-minded nations to focus on growth and not getting involved in the Cold War. Similarly, the importance of neighborhood has been understood by India. It has led to various initiatives such as SAARC, BIMSTEC, BBIN, etc. to help collaborate and lead to overall development of the Indian subcontinent. Path ahead, the individual, society, and nations all are witness to the shortcomings of selfish growth by solely focusing on needs of self. Therefore, a collaborative approach is needed for sustainable development. Therefore, by following Gandhiji's concept of Gram Raj and Sarvodaya, we should focus on reducing inequality of opportunities and income. This can be done by utilizing forums such as interstate councils, zonal council, and Gram Sabha. Similarly, for equitable development of vulnerable groups such as females, gender sensitization is required. Similarly, focus on gender budgeting and gender neutral laws such as recent amendment to Domestic Violence Act can help achieve engendered development on the international level instead of getting submerged in the spaghetti bowl of multilateral trade agreements. Focus should be on strengthening institutions such as UN, WTO, and IMF. By listening to the needs of LOCs and small island developing states, the world will be better prepared for the impending climate changes. By focusing on stakeholder approach rather than the shareholder approach, India would be better prepared for consequences of development on the environment, poor, and wildlife. Though they are voiceless, their needs should not be ignored. Therefore, focus should not be solely on achieving a 5 trillion $5 trillion economy, but rather a more inclusive nation. This can be achieved by more discussions and feedback from various stakeholders. Because as it is rightly said, united we stand, divided we fall. So 3 essays are over today. I think it is enough for today. Thank you so much.